Mr. President, everybody is on the line, and just so this is Mark Meadows, the Chief of Staff, just so we all are aware, on the line is Secretary of State and two other individuals, Jordan and Mr. Germany. With him, you also have the attorneys that represent the President, Kurt and Alex, and Cleta Mitchell, who is not the attorney of record but has been involved, myself, and then the President. So, Mr. President, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, Brad and Ryan and everybody. We appreciate the time and the call. So we've spent a lot of time on this, and if we could just go over some of the numbers, I think it's pretty clear that we won. We won very substantially, Georgia. You even see it by rally size, frankly. We'd be getting 25,000, 30,000 people a rally, and the competition would get less than 100 people, and it never made sense. But we have a number of things. We have at least two or three, anywhere from 250 to 300,000 ballots were dropped mysteriously into the rolls. Much of that had to do with Fulton County, which hasn't been checked. We think that if you check the signatures, a real check of the signatures going back in Fulton County, you'll find at least a couple of 100,000 of forged signatures of people with who have been forged, and we are quite sure that's going to happen. Another tremendous number. We're going to have an accurate number over the next 2 days with certified accountants, but an accurate number will be given, but it's in the 50s of thousands, and that's people that went to vote and they were told they can't vote because they've already been voted for. And it's a very sad thing. They walked out complaining, but the number is large. We'll have it for you, but it's much more than the number of 11,779. That's the current margin is only 11,779. Brad, I think you agree with that, right? That's something I think everyone, at least that's a number that everyone agrees on. But that's the difference in the votes. But we've had hundreds of thousands of ballots that we're able to actually, we'll get you a pretty accurate number. You don't need much of a number because the number that in theory I lost by the margin would be 11,779. But you also have substantial numbers of people, thousands and thousands, who went to the voting place on November 3rd, were told they couldn't vote. We're told they couldn't vote because a ballot had been put in on their name. And, that's very, 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 very sad. We had, I believe it's about 4,502 voters who voted, but who weren't on the voter registration list. So it's 4,502 who voted, but they were not on the voter registration roll, which they had to be. You had 18,325 vacant address voters. They had the address was vacant, and they're not allowed to be counted. That's 18,325. Smaller number, you had 904 who only voted where they had just a PO, a post office box number. And they had a post office box number, and that's not allowed. We had at least 18,000, that's on tape. We had them counted very painstakingly. 18,000 voters having to do with Ruby Freeman. She's a vote scammer, a professional vote scammer and hustler. Ruby Freeman. That was the tape that's been shown all over the world that makes everybody look bad. You, me, and everybody else. Where they got number one, they said very clearly, and it's been reported that they said there was a major water main break. Everybody fled the area, and then they came back. Ruby Freeman, her daughter, and a few people. There were no Republican poll watchers. Actually, there were no Democrat poll watchers. I guess they were them. But there were no Democrats either, and there was no law enforcement. Early in the morning, they went to the table with the black robe, the black shield, and they pulled out the votes. Those votes were put there a number of hours before. The table was put there. I think it was, Brad, you would know, it was probably 8 hours or 7 hours before, and then it was stuffed with votes. They weren't in an official voter box. They were in what looked to be suitcases or trunks, suitcases, but they weren't in voter boxes. The minimum number it could be, because we watched it and they watched it certified in slow motion, instant replay, if you can believe it, but had slow motion, and it was magnified many times over. And the minimum it was 18,000 ballots, all for Biden. You had out-of-state voters. They voted in Georgia, but they were from out of state, of 4,925. You had absentee ballot sent to vacant. They were absentee ballots sent to vacant addresses. They had nothing on them about addresses. That's 2,326. And you had drop boxes, which was very bad. You had drop boxes that were picked up. We have photographs, and we have affidavits from many people. I don't know if you saw the hearings, but you have drop boxes where the box was picked up and not delivered for 3 days. So all sorts of things could have happened to that box, including, putting in the votes that you wanted. So there are many infractions, and the bottom line is many, many times the 11,779 margin that they said we lost by. We had the state is in turmoil over this, and I know you would like to get to the bottom of it, although I saw you on television today and you said that you found nothing wrong. I didn't lose the state, Fred. People have been saying that it was the highest vote ever. There was no way. A lot of the political people said that there's no way they beat me, and they beat me. They beat me in the poll. As you know, every single state, we won every state. We won every state house in the country. We held the Senate, which is shocking to people, although we'll see what happens tomorrow or in a few days. And we won the House, but we won every single state house, and we won Congress, which was supposed to lose 15 seats, and they gained, I think, 16 or 17 or something. I think there's now a difference of 5. There was supposed to be a difference substantially more. But politicians in every state, but politicians in Georgia have given affidavits and are going to that there was no way they beat me in the election, that the people came out. In fact, they were expecting to lose, and they ended up winning by a lot because of the coattails. And they said there's no way that they've done many polls prior to the election. There was no way that they won. Ballots were dropped in massive numbers, and we're trying to get to those numbers, and we will have them. They'll take a period of time, certified, but they're massive numbers and far greater than the 11,779. The other thing, dead people. So dead people voted, and I think the number is in the close to 5,000 people. And they went to obituaries. They went to all sorts of methods to come up with an accurate number, and a minimum is close to about 5,000 voters. The bottom line is when you add it all up, and then you start adding, 300,000 fake ballots, then the other thing they said is in Fulton County and other areas, and this may or may not be true, this just came up this morning, that they are burning their ballots, that they are shredding ballots and removing equipment. They're changing the equipment on the Dominion machines, and then that's not legal. And they supposedly shredded, I think they said 3,000 pounds of ballots, and that just came to us as a report today. And it's a very sad situation. But Brad, if you took the minimum numbers were many, many times above the 11,779, and many of those numbers are certified, or they will be certified, but they are certified. Those are numbers that are there, that exist, and that beat the margin of loss. They beat it, I mean, by a lot. And people should be happy to have an accurate count instead of an election where there's turmoil. I mean, there's turmoil in Georgia and other places. You're not the only one. I mean, we have other states that I believe will be flipping to us very shortly. And but this is something that's as an example, I think in Detroit, and I think there's a good section of your state actually, which we're not sure, so we're not going to report it yet. But in Detroit, we had 139% of the people voted. That's not too good. In Pennsylvania, they had well over 200,000 more votes than they had people voting, and that doesn't play too well. And the legislature there which is Republican, is extremely activist and angry. But I mean, there were other things also that were almost as bad as that. But they had, as an example, in Michigan, a tremendous number of dead people that voted. I think, Mark, it was 18,000, some unbelievably high number, much higher than yours. You were in the 4,000 to 5,000 category, and that was checked out laboriously by going through the obituary columns in the newspapers. So I guess with all of it being said, Brad, it's the bottom line. And provisional ballots, again, you'll have to tell me about the provisional ballots, but we have a lot of people that were complaining that they weren't able to vote because they were already voted for. And these are great people. And, they were shell-shocked. I don't know if you call that provisional ballots. In some states, we had a lot of provisional ballot situations where people were given a provisional ballot because when they walked in on November 3rd, they were already voted for. So that's it. I mean, we have many, many times the number of votes necessary to win the state, and we won the state, and we won it very substantially and easily, and we have much of this is they're certified. Far more is certified than we need, but we're getting additional numbers certified too, and we're getting pictures of drop boxes being delivered and delivered late and delivered 3 days later in some cases. Plus, we have many affidavits to that effect.
So, Mr. President, if I might be able to jump in, and I'll give Brad a chance, Mr. Secretary, obviously there are allegations where we believe that not every vote or fair vote and legal vote was counted. And that's at odds with the representation from the Secretary of State's office. What I'm hopeful for is there some way that we can find some kind of an agreement to look at this a little bit more fully. The president mentioned Fulton County, but in some of these areas where there seems to be a difference of where the facts seem to lead. And so, Mr. Secretary, I was hopeful that, in a spirit of cooperation and compromises, there's something that we can at least have a discussion to look at some of these allegations to find a path forward that's less litigious.
Well, I've listened to what the president has just said. President Trump, we've had several lawsuits, and we've had to respond in court to the lawsuits and the contentions. We don't agree that you have one. I didn't agree about the 200,000 number that you mentioned, and I could go through that point by point. What we had done is we gave our state Senate about 1.5 hours of our time going through the election issue by issue. And then on the State House, the Government Affairs Committee, we gave them about 2.5 hours of our time, going back point by point on all the issues of contention. And then just a few days ago, we met with our U.S. congressmen, Republican congressmen, and we gave them about 2 hours of our time talking about this past election. Going back, primarily what you've talked about here, focused in on primarily, I believe, is the absentee ballot process. I don't believe that you're really questioning the Dominion machines, because we did a hand retally, a 100% retally of all the ballots, and compared that to what the machine said, and it came up with virtually the same result. Then we did the recount, and we got virtually the same result. So I guess we could probably take that off the table. I don't think there's an issue about that. I think what you were saying...
Brad, not that there's not an issue, but because we have a big issue with Dominion and other states, and perhaps in yours, but we haven't felt we needed to go there. And just to maybe put a little different spin on what Mark is saying, Mark Meadows, we'd like to go further, but we don't really need to. We have all the votes we need. We won the state. If you took, these are the most minimal numbers, the numbers that I gave you. Those are numbers that are certified, your absentee ballots sent to vacant addresses, your out-of-state voters, 4,925. When you add them up, it's many times the 11,779 number. So we could go through. We have not gone through your Dominion, so we can't give them blessing. I mean, in other states, we think we found tremendous corruption with Dominion machines, but we'll have to see. But we only lost the state by by that number, 11,000 votes, and 779. So with that being said, with just what we have, and with just what we have, we're giving you minimal numbers. We're doing the most conservative numbers possible. We're many times above the margin, and so we don't really have to, Mark. I don't think we have to go through machines because what's the difference between winning the election by two votes and winning it by 500,000 votes? I think we probably did win it by 500,000. One of the things that happened, Brad, is we have other people coming in now from Alabama and from South Carolina and from other states, and they're saying it's impossible for you to have lost Georgia. We won, in Alabama we set a record, got the highest vote ever. In Georgia we set a record with a massive amount of votes, and they say it's not possible to have lost Georgia. And I could tell you by our rallies. I could tell you by the rally I'm having on Monday night, the place, they already have lines of people standing out front waiting. It's just not possible to have lost Georgia. It's not possible. When I heard it was close, I said, there's no way. But they dropped a lot of votes in there late at night. You know that, Brett. And that's what we are working on very, very stringently. But regardless of those votes, with all of it being said, we lost by essentially 11,000 votes, and we have many more votes already calculated and certified too. So I just don't know, Mark, I don't know what's the purpose. I won't give Dominion a pass because we found too many bad things, but we don't need Dominion or anything else. We have won this election in Georgia based on all of this, and there's nothing wrong with saying that, Brad. Having a correct, the people of Georgia are angry, and these numbers are going to be repeated on Monday night, along with others that we're going to have by that time, which are much more substantial even. And the people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry, and there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated, because the 2,236 and absentee ballots, they're all exact numbers that were done by accounting firms, law firms, etc. And even if you cut them in half, and cut them in half again, it's more votes than we need.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong. We talked to the congressmen, and they were surprised, but I guess there was a person named Mr. Raynard that came to these meetings and presented data. And he said that there was dead people, I believe it was upward of 5,000. The actual number were two people that were dead that voted. And so that's wrong. That was 2.
Well, Cleta, how do you respond to that? I mean, you tell me.
Well, I will
Because-
say, Mr. Secretary, one of the things that we have requested, and what we said was, and if you look at if you read our petition, it said that we took the names and birth years, and we had certain information available to us. We have asked from your office for records that only you have. And so we said there's a universe of people who have the same name and same birth year and died, but we don't have the records that you have. And one of the things that we have been suggesting formally and informally for weeks now is for you to make available to us the records that would be necessary to confirm.
But Cleta, even before you do that, Cleta, even before you do that, and not even including that, that's why I hardly even included that number, although in one state we have a tremendous amount of dead people, so I don't know. I'm sure we do in Georgia too. But is that we're so far ahead. We're so far ahead of these numbers. Even the phony ballots of Ruby Freeman, known scammer. You know the internet? You know what was trending on the internet? Where's Ruby? Because they thought she'd be in jail. Where's Ruby? It's crazy. It's crazy. That was the minimum number is 18,000 for Ruby, but they think it's probably about 56,000. But the minimum number is 18,000 on the Ruby Freeman night, where she ran back in there when everybody was gone and stuffed. She stuffed the ballot boxes. Let's face it, Brad. I mean, they did it in slow motion replay, magnified, right? She stuffed the ballot boxes. They were stuffed like nobody's ever seen them stuffed before. So there's a term for it when it's a machine instead of a ballot box. But she stuffed the machine. She stuffed the ballot. Each ballot went 3 times. They were showing, here's ballot number 1. Here it is a second time, third time, next ballot. I mean, look, Brett, we have a new tape that we're going to release. It's devastating. And by the way, that one event is much more than the 11,000 votes that we're talking about. It's, that one event was a disaster. It's just, but it was something that it can't be disputed. And again, we have a version that you haven't seen, but it's magnified. It's magnified, and you can see everything. And she put, for some reason, they put it in 3 times each ballot, and I don't know why, but why? I don't know why 3 times. Why not 5 times, right? But yeah, go ahead.
You're talking about the State Farm video, and I think it's extremely unfortunate that Rudy Giuliani or his people, they sliced and diced that video and took it out of context. So the next day we brought in WSB TV and we let them see the full run of tape. And what you'll see, the events that transpired are nowhere near what was projected by,
But where were the poll watchers, Brad? There were no poll watchers there. There were no Democrats or Republicans. There was no security there. It was late in the evening, or early in the morning, and there was nobody else in the room. Where were the poll watchers? And why did they say a water main broke, which they did, and which is reported in the newspapers? They said they ran out because of a water main break, and there was no water main. There was nothing. There was no break. There was no water main break. But if you take out everything, where were the Republican poll watchers? Even where were the Democrat poll watchers? Because there were none. And then you say, well, they left their station. If you look at the tape, and this was reviewed by professional police and detectives and other people. When they left in a rush, everybody left in a rush because of the water main, but everybody left in a rush. These people left their station. When they came back, they didn't go to their station. They went to the apron wrapped around the table under which were thousands and thousands of ballots in a box that was not an official or a sealed box. And then they took those and they went back to a different station. So if they would have come back, they would have walked to their station and they would have continued to work. But they couldn't do even that because that's illegal because they had no Republican poll watchers. And remember, her reputation is devastating. She's known all over the internet, Brett. She's known all over. I'm telling you, where's Ruby was one of the hot items on the Ruby. They knew her. Where's Ruby? So, Brad, you know, there can be no justification for that. And I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. But that was, and Brad, why did they put the votes in 3 times? You know, they put them in 3 times.
Mr. President, they did not put that. We did an audit of that, and we proved conclusively that they were not scanned 3 times.
Well, where was everybody else at that late time in the morning? Where was everybody? Where were the Republicans? Where were the security guards? Where were the people that were there just a little while before when everyone ran out of the room? How come we had no security in the room? Why did they run to the bottom of the table? Why did they run there and just open the skirt and rip out the votes? I mean, Brad, and they were sitting there, I think for 5 hours or something like that, the votes. But they just all happened to run back and go, you know, Brad. Come on.
Yeah, Mr. President, we'll send you the link from WSB that does.
I don't care about a link. I don't need it. I have a much better link.
I will tell you, I've seen the tape, the full tape. So has Alex. We've watched it. And what we saw and what we've confirmed in the timing is that they made everybody leave. We have sworn affidavits saying that. And then they began to process ballots. And our estimate is that there were roughly 18,000 ballots. We don't know that. If you know that.
It was 18,000 ballots, but they used each one 3 times.
Well, so I don't know about that, but I know.
Well, I do because we had ours magnified out. So each one magnified out is.
I've watched the entire thing.
But nobody can make a case for that, Brett. Nobody. I mean, look, you'd have to be a child to think anything other than that. Just a child. I mean, you have your never Trump U.S. attorney there.
How many ballots, Mr. Secretary, are you saying that were processed in?
We had GPI thoroughly investigate that.
This is Ryan Germany. We had our law enforcement officers talk to everyone who was there after that event came to light. The GBI was with them as well as FBI agents.
Well, there's no way they could. Then they're incompetent. They're either dishonest or incompetent. Okay, there's only 2 answers: dishonesty or incompetence. There's just no way. Look, there's no way. And on the other thing I said too, there's no way. I mean, there's no way that these things could have been. You know, you have all these different people that voted, but they don't live in Georgia anymore. What was that number, Clay? That was a pretty good number too. Yeah.
Well, the number who had registered out of state after they moved from Georgia, and so they had a date when they moved from Georgia. They registered to vote out of state, and then it's like 4,500. I don't have that right in front of me.
And then they came back in and they voted.
And voted. Yeah.
No, that was a large number, though. It was in the 20s. And, you know, the point
We've been going through each of those as well, and those numbers that we got, that Ms. Mitchell was just saying, they're not accurate. Everyone we've been through are people that lived in Georgia, moved to a different state, but then moved back to Georgia legitimately. And in many cases...
Really? How many people do that? You mean they moved out and then they said, the hell with it, I'll move back in? You know, it doesn't sound like a very normal... You mean they moved out, and what, they missed it so much that they wanted to move back in? Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, and they moved back in years ago. This was not like something just before the election. So there's something about that data that it's just not accurate.
Well, I don't know. All I know is that it is certified, and they moved out of Georgia, and they voted. It didn't say they moved back in, Clayton, did it?
No, but I mean, we're looking at the voter registry. Again, if you have additional records, we've been asking for that. But you haven't shared any of that with us. You just keep saying you've been.
But a lot of it you don't need to be shared. I mean, to be honest, they should share it. They should share it because you want to get to an honest election. I won this election by hundreds of thousands of votes. There's no way I lost Georgia. There's no way. We won by hundreds of thousands of votes. I'm just going by small numbers. When you add them up, they're many times the 11,000. But I won that state by hundreds of thousands of votes. Now, do you think it's possible that they shredded ballots in Fulton County? Because that's what the rumor is. And also that Dominion took out machines. That Dominion is really moving fast to get rid of their machinery. Do you know anything about that? Because that's illegal.
This is Ryan, Germany. No, Dominion has not moved any machinery out of Fulton County. We're having.
But have they moved? Have they moved the inner parts of the machines and replaced them with other parts?
No.
You sure, Ryan?
I'm sure, Mr. President.
And what about the ballots? The shredding of the ballots. Have they been shredding ballots?
No. The only investigation that we have into that, they have not been shredding any ballots. There was an issue in Cobb County where they were doing normal, office shredding, getting rid of old stuff, and we investigated that. But this is stuff from, past elections.
No, I don't know.
And that's what it
doesn't pass the smell test, though, because we hear they're shredding thousands and thousands of ballots, and now what they're saying, we're just cleaning up the office. I don't think that plays.
Mr. President, the problem you have with social media, people can say anything.
No, this isn't social media. This is Trump media. It's not social media. It's really not. It's not social media. I don't care about social. But I couldn't care less. Social media is big tech. Big tech is on your side. I don't even know why you have a side, because you should want to have an accurate election, and you're a Republican.
We believe that we do have an accurate election.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have. Not even close. You're off by hundreds of thousands of votes, and just on the small numbers, you're off on these numbers, and these numbers can't be judged. Well, why won't? Okay, so you send us into Cobb County for signature verification, right? You send us into Cobb County, which we didn't want to go into. And you said it would be open to the public, and we could have so we had our experts there. They weren't allowed into the room. But we didn't want Cobb County. We wanted Fulton County, and you wouldn't give it to us. Now, why aren't we doing signature, and why can't it be open to the public, and why can't we have professionals do it instead of rank amateurs that will never find anything and don't want to find anything? They don't want to find. They don't want to find anything. Someday you'll tell me the reason why, because I don't understand your reasoning. But someday you'll tell me the reason why. But why don't you want to find?
We chose Cobb County.
Why don't you want to find? What?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so why did you do Cobb County? We didn't even we requested Fulton County, not Cobb County.
Well, Mr. President, we did have our election contest.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
We chose Cobb County because that was the only county where there's been any evidence submitted that the signature verification was not properly done.
Well, no, but I told you, but we're not saying that. We are we're the aggrieved party. Fulton County, look, Stacy, in my opinion, Stacy is as dishonest as they come. She has outplayed you at every heart, at everything. She got you to sign a totally unconstitutional agreement, which is a disastrous agreement. You can't check signatures. You can't do. I can't imagine you're allowed to do harvesting, I guess, in that agreement. That agreement is a disaster for this country. But she got you somehow to sign that thing, and she's outsmarted you at every step. And I hate to imagine what's going to happen on Monday or Tuesday, but it's very scary to people, where the ballots flow in out of nowhere. It's very scary to people. That consent decree is a disaster. It's a disaster. A very good lawyer who examined it said they've never seen anything like it. And
harvesting is still illegal in the state of Georgia, and that settlement agreement did not change that.
Well, it's not a settlement agreement. It's a consent decree. It even says consent decree on it, doesn't it? It uses the term consent decree. It doesn't say settlement agreement. It's a consent decree. It's a disaster.
It's a settlement agreement.
What's written on top of it?
Ryan?
I don't have it in front of me, but it was not entered by the court. It's not a court order.
No, it's called, but Ryan, it's called a consent decree. Is that right on the paper? Is that right?
I don't believe so. But I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. Whatever. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. Look, here's the problem. We can go through signature verification, and we'll find hundreds of thousands of signatures if you let us do it. And the only way you can do it, as you know, is to go to the past. But you didn't do that in Cobb County. You just looked at one page compared to another. The only way you can do a signature verification is go from the one that signed it on November, whatever, recently, and compare it to 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, or even one. And you'll find that you have many different signatures. But in Fulton, where they dumped ballots, you will find that you have many that aren't even signed, and you have many that are forgeries. Okay? You know that. You know that. You have no doubt about that. And you will find you will be at 11,779 within minutes, because Fulton County is totally corrupt, and so is she totally corrupt. And they're going around playing you and laughing at you behind your back, Brad. Whether you know it or not, they're laughing at you. And you've taken a state that's a Republican state, and you've made it almost impossible for a Republican to win because of cheating, because they cheated like nobody's ever cheated before. And I don't care how long it takes me. We're going to have other states coming forward pretty good. But I won't. This is never given. We have some incredible talent. Said they've never seen anything. Now, the problem is they need more time for the big numbers, but they are very substantial numbers. And I think you're going to find that they, by the way, a little information, I think you're going to find that they are shredding ballots, because they have to get rid of the ballots, because the ballots are unsigned. The ballots are corrupt. And they're brand new, and they don't have seals, and there's a whole thing with the ballots, but the ballots are corrupt. And you're going to find that they are, which is totally illegal. It's more illegal for you than it is for them, because you know what they did and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense. And you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk. But they are shredding ballots, in my opinion, based on what I've heard, and they are removing machinery, and they're moving it as fast as they can, both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen, and you are letting it happen. I'm notifying you that you're letting it happen. So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state, and flipping the state is a great testament to our country, because, and there's just, it's a testament that they can admit to a mistake, or whatever you want to call it, if it was a mistake. I don't know. A lot of people think it wasn't a mistake. It was much more criminal than that. But it's a big problem in Georgia, and it's not a problem that's going away. I mean, it's not a problem that's going away. And we got
President, this is Ryan. We're looking into every one of those things that you mentioned.
Okay,
and our investigators.
But if you find them, you got to say it, Ryan. Look, if they're, let me ask you, Ryan, if they're destroying ballots.
Let me tell you what we are seeing.
Go ahead. Good.
What we're seeing is not at all what you're describing.
Okay.
And these are investigators from our office. These are investigators from GBI, and they're looking, and they're good, and that's not what they're seeing. And we'll keep looking. We'll keep looking at all these things.
Well, you better check on the ballots, because they are shredding ballots, Brian. I'm just telling you, Ryan, they're shredding ballots, and you should look at that very carefully, because that's so illegal. You may not even believe it because it's so bad, but they're shredding ballots because they think we're going to eventually get there, because we'll eventually get into Fulton. It's in my opinion, it's never too late. So little double sound act. So that's the story, fellas. Look, we need only 11,000 votes. We have far more than that as it stands now. We'll have more and more. And do you have provisional ballots at all, Brad? Provisional ballots?
Provisional ballots are allowed, by state law.
Sure, but do you have them? I mean, are they counted, or did you just hold them back because they, in other words, how many provisional ballots do you have in the state?
We'll get you that number.
Because most of them are made out to the name Trump, because these are people that were scammed when they came in, and we have thousands of people that have testified or that want to testify. When they came in, they were proudly going to vote on November 3rd, and they were told, I'm sorry, you've already been voted for, you've already voted. The women, men started screaming, no, I proudly voted till November 3rd. They said, I'm sorry, but you already been voted for, and you have a ballot. And these people are beside themselves. So they went out and they filled in a provisional ballot, putting the name Trump on it. And what about that batch of military ballots that came in, and even though I won the military by a lot, it was 100% Trump. 100% Biden. Do you know about that? A large group of ballots came in, I think it was to Fulton County, and they just happened to be 100% for Trump, for Biden, even though Trump won the military by a lot, a tremendous amount. But these ballots were 100% for Biden. And you know about that? A very substantial number came in, all for Biden. Does anybody know about it?
I know about it, but we were never.
Okay, Cleta, wait. I'm not asking you, Cleta, honestly. I'm asking Brad. Do you know about the military ballots that we have confirmed now? Do you know about the military ballots that came in that were 100%? 100% for Biden. Do you know about that?
I don't know about that. I do know that we have, when military ballots come in, it's not just military. It's also military and overseas citizens. The military part of that does generally go Republican. The overseas citizen part of it generally goes very Democrat.
No, but this was
a mix of them.
Yeah, that's okay. But I got like 78% in the military. These ballots were all for this. They didn't tell me overseas. Could be overseas too, but I get votes overseas too, Ryan. In all fairness. No, they came in. A large batch came in, and it was quote 100% for Biden, and that is criminal. That's criminal. Okay, that's another criminal. That's another of the many criminal events. Many criminal events here. I don't know. Look, Brad, I have to find 12,000 votes, and I have them times a lot, and therefore I won the state. That's before we go to the next step, which is in the process of right now, And I watched you this morning, and you said, well, there was no criminality, but all of this stuff is very dangerous stuff. When you talk about no criminality, I think it's very dangerous for you to say that. I just don't know why you don't want to have the votes counted as they are. Like even you, when you went and did that check, and I was surprised because, I didn't consider the check, and we found a few thousand votes that were against me. I was actually surprised because the way that check was done, all you're doing is recertifying existing votes. And, you were given votes and you just counted them up, and you still found 3,000 that were bad. That was sort of surprising. That came down to 3 or 5, I don't know, a lot, still a lot of votes. But you have to go back to check from past years with respect to signatures. And if you check with Fulton County, you'll have hundreds of thousands because they dumped ballots into Fulton County and the other county next to it. So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break. We have that in spades already, or we can keep it going. But that's not fair to the voters of Georgia because they're going to see what happened. And they're going to see what happened. I'll take on anybody you want with regard to Ruby Freeman and her lovely daughter, a very lovely young lady, I'm sure. But Ruby Freeman, I will take Freeman. I will take on anybody you want And the minimum, there were 18,000 ballots, but they used them 3 times. So that's, a lot of votes. And that one event, and they were all to Biden, by the way. That's the other thing we didn't say. The Ruby Freeman, one thing I forgot to say, which was the most important. Do you know that every single ballot she did went to Biden? You know that, right? Do you know that, by the way, Brett? Every single ballot that she did through the machine at early in the morning went to Biden. Did you know that, Ryan?
That's not accurate, Mr. President.
Huh. What is accurate?
The numbers that we are showing are accurate.
No, about Ruby Freeman, about early in the morning, Ryan, when the woman took when the whole gang took the stuff from under the table, right? Do you know do you know who those ballots, do you know who they were made out to? Do you know who they were voting for?
No, not specifically.
Did you ever check?
We did what I described to you earlier.
No. Did you ever check the ballots that were scammed by Ruby Freeman, a known political operative balloteer? Did you ever check who those votes were for?
We've looked into that situation that you described.
No, they were 100% for Biden. 100%. There wasn't a Trump vote in the whole group. Why don't you want to find this, Ryan? What's wrong with you? I heard your lawyer is very difficult, actually, but I'm sure you're a good lawyer. You have a nice last name. But I'm just curious, why do you keep fighting this thing? It just doesn't make sense. We're way over the 17,779, right? We're way over that number. And if you took just Ruby Freeman, we're over that number by five or six times when you multiply it out times 3. And every single ballot went to Biden. And you didn't know that, but now you know it. So tell me, Brad, what are we going to do? We won the election, and it's not fair to take it away from us like this. And it's going to be very costly in many ways. And I think you have to say that you're going to re-examine it, and you can re-examine it, but re-examine it with people that want to find answers, not people that don't want to find answers. For instance, I'm hearing Ryan, and he's probably, I'm sure, a great lawyer and everything, but he's making statements about those ballots that he doesn't know. But he's making them with he did make them with surety, but now I think he's less sure, because the answer is they all went to Biden. And that alone wins us the election by a lot. So.
Mr. President, you have people that submit information, and we have our people that submit information, and then it comes before the court, and the court then has to make a determination. We have to stand by our numbers. We believe our numbers are right.
Well, why do you say that, though? I don't know. I mean, sure, we can play this game with the courts, but why do you say that? First of all, they don't even assign us a judge. But why wouldn't you, hey, Brad, why wouldn't you want to check out Ruby Freeman, and why wouldn't you want to say, hey, if in fact President Trump is right about that, then he wins the state of Georgia, just that one incident alone, without going through hundreds of thousands of drop ballots? You just say you stick by, I mean, I've been watching you you don't care about anything. Your numbers are right. But your numbers aren't right. They're really wrong. And they're really wrong, Brad. And I know this phone call's going nowhere other than ultimately, look, ultimately I win, okay? Because
Mr. Secretary,
you guys are so wrong, and you've treated the population of Georgia so badly. Between you and your governor, who was down at 21, he was down 21 points, and like a schmuck, I endorsed him, and he got elected. But I will tell you, he's a disaster, and I can't imagine The people are so angry in Georgia. I can't imagine he's ever getting elected again. I'll tell you that much right now. But why wouldn't you want to find the right answer, Brad, instead of keep saying that the numbers are right? Because those numbers are so wrong.
Mr. President,
Mr. Secretary, Mr. President, I mean, one of the things that we have been, Alex can talk about this, we've talked about it, and I don't know whether the information has been conveyed to your office, but I think what the President's saying, what we've been trying to do is to say, look, the court is not acting on our petition. They haven't even assigned a judge. But the people of Georgia and the people of America have a right to know the answers. And you have data and records that we don't have access to. And you keep telling us and making public statements that you've investigated this and, you know, nothing to see here. But we don't know about that. All we know is what you tell us. What I don't understand is why it wouldn't be in everyone's best interest to try to get to the bottom, compare the numbers. You know, if you say, but to try to be able to get to truth, and that because we don't have any way of confirming what you're telling us. You tell us that you've had an investigation of the State Farm Arena. I don't have any report. I've never seen a report of investigation. I don't know what that is. I've been pretty involved in this. I don't know. And that's just one of like 25 categories. And it doesn't even, and as the President said, we haven't even gotten into the Dominion issue. That's not part of our case. It's not part of, we just didn't feel as though we had any way to be able to develop.
No, we do have a way, but I don't want to get into it because we found a way in other states, Slater, excuse me, but we don't need it because we're only down 11,000 votes, so we don't even need it.
Right.
I personally think they're corrupt as hell, but we don't need that because all we have to do, Slater, is find 11,000 plus votes. So we don't need that. I'm not looking to shake up the whole world. We won Georgia easily. We won it by hundreds of thousands of votes, but if you go by basic, simple numbers, we won it easily. So we're not giving Dominion a pass on the record.
No, right, exactly.
But we just don't, we don't need Dominion because we have so many other votes that we don't need to prove it any more than we already have.
Mr. President, Cleta, this is Kurt Hilbert, if I might interject here for a moment. Ryan, I would like to suggest that just 4 categories that have already been mentioned by the President that have actually hard numbers of 24,149 votes that were counted illegally. That in and of itself is sufficient to change the results or place the outcome in doubt. We would like to just sit down with your office, and we can do it through purposes of compromise and settlement just like this phone call, just to deal with that limited category of votes. And if you are able to establish that our numbers are not accurate, then fine. However, we believe that they are accurate. We've had now 3 to 4 separate experts look at these numbers. These numbers are based upon the USPS.
And certified accountants looked at them.
Correct. And this is just based on USPS data and your own Secretary of State data. So that's what we would entreat and ask you to do, to sit down with us in a compromise and settlement, proceeding, and actually go through the registered voter IDs and the registrations. And if you can convince us that 24,149 is inaccurate, then fine. But we tend to believe that is, obviously more than 11,779. That's sufficient to change the result entirely in and of itself. So what would you say to that, Mr. Germany?
Kurt, I'm happy to, I'll get with our lawyers and we'll set that up. That number is not accurate, and I think we can show you, for all the ones we've looked at, why it's not. And so if that would be helpful, I'm happy to get with our lawyers and set that up with you guys.
Well, let me ask you, Kurt. Kurt, you think that is an accurate number? That was based on the information given to you by the Secretary of State's Department, right?
That is correct. That information is the minimum, most conservative data based upon the USPS data and the Secretary of State's office data that has been made publicly available. We do not have the internal numbers from the Secretary of State, yet we have asked for it 6 times. I've sent a letter over to Mr. Anulowicz several times requesting this information, and it's been rebuffed every single time. So it stands to reason that if the information is not forthcoming, there's something to hide. That's the problem that we have.
Well, that's not the case. There are things that you guys are entitled to get, and there's things that under law we are not allowed to give out.
Well, you have to. Well, under law, you're not allowed to give faulty election results, okay? You're not allowed to do that, and that's what you've done. This is a faulty election result. And honestly, this should go very fast. You should meet tomorrow because you have a big election coming up, and because of what you've done to the president, you know, the people of Georgia know that this was a scam. And because of what you've done to the president, a lot of people aren't going out to vote. And a lot of Republicans are going to vote negative because they hate what you did to the president. Okay? They hate it. And they're going to vote. And if you would be respected, if this thing could be straightened out before the election. You have a big election coming up on Tuesday. And therefore, I think that it really is important that you meet tomorrow and work out on these numbers. Because I know, Brad, that if you think we're right, I think you're going to say, and I'm not looking to blame anybody. I'm just saying that, under new counts and under new views of the election results, we won the election. It's all, it's very simple. We won the election. As the governor of major states and the surrounding states said, there is no way you lost Georgia. As the Georgia politicians say, there is no way you lost Georgia. Nobody, everyone knows I won it by hundreds of thousands of votes. But I'll tell you, it's going to have a big impact on Tuesday if you guys don't get this thing straightened out fast.
Well, Mr. President, this is Mark. Let me just, it sounds like we've got 2 different sides agreeing that we can look at those areas, and I assume that we can do that within the next 24 to 48 hours to go ahead and get that reconciled so that we can look at the 2 claims and making sure that we get the access to the Secretary of State's data to either validate or invalidate the claims that have been made. Is that correct?
So that's not what I said. I'm happy to sit down with, or have our lawyers sit down with Kurt and the lawyers on that side and explain to him, hey, here's, based on what we've looked at so far, here's how we know this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And
so what you're saying, Ryan, hold on, let me make sure. So what you're saying is you really don't want to give access to the data. You just want to make another case on why the lawsuit is wrong?
I don't think we can give access to data that's protected by law, but we can sit down with them and say,
but
hey,
you're allowed to have a phony election. You're allowed to have a phony election, right?
No, sir.
When are you going to do the signature counts on? When are you going to do signature verification on Fulton County, which you said you were going to do, and now all of a sudden you're not doing it? When are you doing that?
We are going to do that. We've announced.
To get to this issue of the personal information and privacy issue, is it possible that the Secretary of State could deputize the lawyers for the president so that we could access that information, that private information, without you having any kind of violation?
Well, I don't want to know who it is. You guys can do it very confidentially. You can sign a confidentiality agreement. That's okay. I don't need to know names.
All right,
but we got the information on this stuff that we're talking about. We got all that information from the Secretary of State.
Yeah, so let me recommend, Ryan, if you and Kurt will get together, when we get off of this phone call, if you could get together and work out a plan to address some of what we've got with your attorneys, where we can actually look at the data. For example, Mr. Secretary, I can tell you said there was only 2 dead people that would vote. I can promise you there are more than that, and that may be what your investigation shows, but I can promise you there are more than that. But at the same time, I think it's important that we go ahead and move expeditiously to try to do this and resolve it as quickly as we possibly can. And if that's the good next step, hopefully we can finish this phone call and go ahead and agree that the two of you will get together immediately.
Well, why don't my lawyers show you where you got the information? It'll show the Secretary of State, and you don't even have to look at any names. We don't want names. We don't care. But we got that information from you. And Stacey Abrams is laughing about, she's going around saying these guys are dumber than a rock. What she's done to this party is unbelievable, I tell you. And I only ran against her once, and that was with a guy named Brian Kemp, and I beat her. And if I didn't run, Brian wouldn't have had even a shot, either in the general or in the primary. He was dead as a doornail. He never thought he had a shot at either one of them. What a schmuck I was. But that's the way it is. That's the way it is. I would like you to, for the attorneys on my side, I'd like you to perhaps meet with Ryan, ideally tomorrow, because I think we should come to a resolution of this before the election. Otherwise, you're going to have people just not voting. They don't want to vote. They hate the state. They hate the governor, and they hate the Secretary of State. I will tell you that right now. And the only people that like you are people that will never vote for you. You know that, Brad, right? They like you. They like you. They can't believe what they found. They want more people like you. So look, can you get together tomorrow? And Brad, we just want the truth. It's simple. And everyone's going to look very good if the truth comes out. It's okay. It takes a little while, but let the truth come out. And the real truth is I won by 400,000 votes, at least. That's the real truth. But we don't need 400,000 votes. We need less than 2,000 votes. And are you guys able to meet tomorrow, Ryan?
I'll get with Chris, the lawyer who's representing us in the case, and see when he can get together with Kurt.
All right.
Ryan will be in touch with the other attorney on this call, Mr. Meadows. Thank you, President Trump, for your time.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
President.